Hello, welcome. I'm Bill Say. Today, this first talk in the series, Unfolding Process and Building Community, I want to address this basic question. What is process? Of course, there's many answers, but here's a few things that I'd like to offer. Um, Process can be seen as a series of perceptual events, and that's whether they're intentional processes or unintended ones that just kind of, in a sense, happen to us. Yeah. So, taking a walk with a friend, or experiencing a headache, which is what I have going on this morning. Formulating a strategic plan within an organization, or falling in or out of love. Um, a process can be likened to a journey. It's like a series of steps. You start here and you're roughly going to another place. And sometimes that journey is very clear. Yes, I'm going from point A to point B. And sometimes the journey is more mysterious. And we may even ask ourselves, hey, I didn't ask to be on this journey. And yet we find ourselves in that process, so to speak. Um, Sometimes we might ask ourselves, where does this process come from? Um, process Processes of different sorts can arise from our thinking and planning. Like we say, "Gosh, I haven't seen my friend in quite a while. Let me call her up or call him up and let's see if we can get together and have a talk." Or let's take a trip. We want to go see someplace. Or maybe we realize that our group really needs to have a meeting and talk about stuff. Um, and then we have unintended processes like our nighttime dreams or our physical symptoms or relationship problems that we weren't expecting, yeah, or organizational troubles, etc. And some of these, like dreams and relationship problems, sometimes they're harder to locate in terms of their origin point. Yeah, how did it even start? Um, and then you and I could be considered living processes. Yeah. And where did we begin? There's a saying in the US, you were even a twinkle in your parents' eye, which suggests that maybe even before there was that initial attraction, for example, between your parents, assuming there was some attraction that resulted in, having you, having a child. It's one kind of an origin point to consider. And then many processes have even more ambivalent um, origins. And I think here of the physicist David Bohm, who coined this term, the implicate order. This realm, this subtle realm. I guess it's subtle, where things are just becoming manifest into physical reality. Yeah, yeah. So that's a view from physics. And then others, of course, point to god or goddesses that may be the creator of arguably everything. Yeah, so many views as to the origin of process. Did you start the fight, or was it I? Sometimes it's really hard to say who threw the first punch. Sometimes it's clear. Many times it's really hard to say, where did the conflict really begin. And then processes can be seen as arising in different perceptual channels like seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling things, or proprioception, or the movement channel or kinesthesia. Yeah. And then there's these compound channels like relationship, where we're hearing things, we're saying things, we're seeing things, we're feeling things, very complex in things, all the perceptual channels that come into complex things like relationships. Yeah. And then in process work, the process work of Arnold Mindell, where this body of theory around process originates rather. We might also consider the world channel, where there's things happening out in the world that somehow affect us. Like lately, I've been thinking more about climate change and how it troubles and frightens me. Yeah, something happening in the world channel that's somehow part of my process. or we see something out in the street and somehow it reverberates, it somehow touches us. Yeah, world channel. And then meaningfully, we can interact with process. Yeah. And we could try to bring our awareness to these things that are arising or happening chronically or just in the moment today. And again, that's whether these processes are planned or unplanned. And it could be, seen as like a midwife for a birth, for a child being born. Sometimes a little help can be helpful. But then not all processes and not all births necessarily need assistance. Sometimes it could be that the given process is best just to be left alone. Yeah, it's enough. um, but others, might need something, might need our awareness, might need our attention, might need our understanding or sensitivity. Like if you think about a serious ailment or a serious conflict, some of us might opt for no intervention, no help, and others might need a little bit of help so that we have a better outcome, so that the process that's emerging, say through a conflict or say through some communication process, may have a little bit better chance, say of I'll call it succeeding. um, It also seems that processes have their own nature and can even be seen as a manifestation of nature arising here through a given process. And here I think about different folk sayings like, go with the flow, don't push the river, think like a mountain, come back down to earth. And depending on the given process and each one's particular nature, that might suggest the right approach to, in a sense, meet it. Yeah. So I wanted to offer example from my night and from my morning here. In the night, I had this dream of I was in a swimming pool, and what I discovered after a bit was that there were these large green pythons, many of them. Of course, it was kind of scary, so I tried to get away from them. But early in the dream, even before I realized that the pythons were there, in the dream, I took this very slow swimming stroke. And that was a very interesting detail of the dream. Isn't it interesting? Like in dreams, there's some particular detail you think, hmm, why was that? So I had to consider there's a swimming pool, scary green, but also like I love the color green. It's like something that's so vibrant about the green for me. And then pythons and their power and their kind of scary and exciting, and then this swimming stroke. And then here's the thing, which to say first? Let me say this part first. So when I was kind of like thinking about this dream, I thought, hmm, being in a swimming pool full of pythons feels like my life right now. It feels like there's things that are very intense for me right now, and there's a lot of complexity and depths, and I'm a little anxious. I feel challenged by some of the things, particularly in my work life. But then this motion, yeah, I was considering this motion in the dream, and then I realized that there's a way where I can swim in these waters, even though they may be challenging, and just go slow and take it easy. And from some of the different moments where I've met the challenge lately, I recognize that does seem to be the natural way to meet this momentary process of deep challenge, exciting, kind of scary, anxiety producing, but just going slow in my proceeding, swimming through the waters slowly. Now, here's the moment that I'm faced this morning. So I woke up this morning and I had a headache. And because I'm a process work person, I consider the headache, one of my processes and stuff. So I was working on it a bit ago, and I noticed I was doing this. I could feel it, like this sensation in my head, And I noticed that there's like a fullness. There's a lot going on in my body and a lot of things going on in my head. And I think it's because there's so much stimulation and so many different situations I'm facing with work. And then I noticed I was doing this with my hands as I was kind of feeling into the headache. And again, it seemed like the dream, like my head and my body was that serpent-filled swimming pool with a lot going on, and then there was this slow motion where I felt like there is a lot going on in my mind and body and life, and I can be with it. I can deal with it by just going slow. I can be with it all. So that's a little example of how one might interact with a given process and how that process's nature might also suggest, give us a hint about how it can be related to. In this case, the process was arising both from my, consensus reality life and the pressures and the situations I'm in that I'm also quite fortunate to be in, and also the intersection of my dreaming life that somehow parallels the situation of my life, and so interesting and wonderful about dreams suggests a possible way or approach to be in this complicated, intense, deep, rich moment. Um, yeah. So I have a couple more things I want to say about process. So thinking of the individual or collective process, the planned and the unplanned, the intentional and the unintentional processes that arise for us, we may also note which processes do we welcome, which do we not welcome, which excite or interest us, and which disturb us, whether it's in the moment or more long term. Those kinds of relationships that we have with welcome and our with different processes and our own attitudes to them also, they say a lot about who we are and how we can meet processes and sometimes how we might need to change and adapt ourselves so that we can be more fluid and more capable to deal with some of the challenges of life. So, a last related question I want to pose to you is this. So, if you think about this really big topic, and there's so much more that can be said about it from many different perspectives as well, I'd like to ask you what processes in life are the most important to you, the most prominent, or the most enduring? That's always interesting to look at. What processes really just follow us around in life? Which ones impact you the most for better and for worse? And again, is there a way that you could study them and interact with them? And I'm sure you already are, and learn from these processes. But I notice, like in saying that, I start to get into the next topic of the next video, which I want to talk about unfolding process. It's another way of interacting with processes, unfoldment. So, hope that's helpful. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.